We've all been there. Something you didn't plan for. It's your health, your spouse, your job, something that now stands in the way. As Mike Tyson reminds us, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. Anyone can make a plan, but very few can execute when the pressure's on. Well, imagine having a way to handle things that get in the way, even turn the obstacle into an opportunity. Welcome to A Call to Rise. I'm your host, Joel Landy, founder, entrepreneur, former naval officer, and this is where we help you build resilience, which is the ability to manage high levels of challenge and disruption while maintaining high levels of effectiveness and well-being. Because goals without setbacks are uncommon and big plans without resilience are just not happening. So if your job or life demands staying and playing at a high level, you're exactly where you need to be. So let's jump in. Want to do bigger things? Well, maybe you need to jump, because when you jump, the net will appear. Here's a cool story, right? In 2016, skydiver Luke Akins had a plan. He wanted to jump from 25,000 feet, right? That's really not that impressive, not that new. He hit 120 miles per hour, which is fast, but not that impressive. But then he landed, and he landed safely in a net. Now, this is massively impressive because he did it without a parachute. And so Luke made history as the first person to attempt to skydive. This is back in 2016 with neither a parachute nor a wingsuit, right? And this is a perfect metaphor for today for us, right? For jumping out of the plane, for taking risks, right? Now, Luke put a lot of thought into, obviously, this idea, tons of training. He had some really sophisticated technology. I thought one thing that was really cool that he did was he performed this dozens of times with a practice, with a chute, but he was aiming for a target that was considerably smaller. In fact, they said it was a fraction of the size of the final net that he would move into. But it just gave me a lot of pause to think about today's conversation. Some of you are waiting for big things to happen, and I'm here to tell you they actually can. But it's when you start taking more risks, and you have to take the right risks, and you've got to put some thought into it. And if you want to do interesting things, cool things, just big things, you got to think and prepare. Really, today is about thinking and preparing like an entrepreneur. So I wanted to share 6 ideas that I've come across as an entrepreneur, and then figure out which one am I going to take action on. The first one is before you take a leap of faith, consider this, and most people don't, right? Before you jump, right? Success comes from solving a problem. And some of you want to actually become entrepreneurs. The greatest opportunity you're going to have is actually solving another person's problem, not for looking something sexy, right? Think of it this way. Stop selling vitamins, start selling painkillers. Deal with a problem that people have in life, and chances are you're going to be successful. Number 2, start taking a lot of small risks. And I mean, look, at Starbucks, on a Zoom call, at the gym, take a chance. Say something kind. Ask a real question. Use your sense of humor. But you're never going to take big risks if you don't take small ones. Start today. Take a bunch of small risks. They're fun. They're going to make you nervous, but they're going to make you set you up for number 3. Big results require big risks, and waiting for big things to happen, I'm telling you, is a fantasy. They only arrive when you get uncomfortable, right? And you got to get uncomfortable by taking a lot of small risks. So here's a gut check. How many big risks have you taken so far? And how many do you have on your calendar, right? I just counted before I did this podcast today. I've got 8 things that scare the life out of me that are coming up in 2026, right? Number 4 is this idea of a theater of 100, right? So according to the Small Business Administration, if you put 100 people in a room that had a great idea, a really solid idea, right? 4 to 9 of them are going to be successful actually monetizing their idea. So, what are you going to take? What is it going to take for you to be that person? I think one of them is resilience. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But I want you to think about number 5 is the idea that jump and the net will appear, right? So it's not enough to have courage to do something new, something a little crazy, right? You got to have a process that you can trust in and to follow in order to take that risk, right? You need a process, which means you need fuel along the way to get you through the process and keep you in difficult situations. Number 7 is I want you to study and really figure out, what does resilience mean for you? Figure out, how are you wired? If you don't understand resilience, and you're never going to understand how to stay disciplined and with something or someone that's not working out, Resilience is the fuel that you're going to need to actually try things and fail and stay with it until it becomes successful. So look, everywhere you go, there's risk. There's risk to say something. There's risk to not say something, right? There's risk to stay in your job. There's risk to leave your job. There's risk to stay in the relationship you're in. There's risk to lead it. I get it. It's all risky. But here's the biggest risk that you're going to find out in life. The biggest risk is the risk of dying slowly inside, simply because you cling to something in your life that's small and it's easy and it's familiar. All right, remember that saying, you said tomorrow yesterday. Stop putting it off, right? Don't become that person that talks about how great things could have been. Break the cycle of someday and do the work. Trust that building resilience will give you the wings to see just how far you can actually fly. I know it sounds heroic. I know it sounds like a bit of a fairy tale, but it's true. A lot of people have flown really far. They've done big things in life, and they've done it by doing a lot of small, risky things that turned into big things. Remember this too, the things that you think are going to be big and convert in life, chances are won't. But if you have a spirit of taking the right risks and using your gifts and talents to promote the well-being of other people, trust me, your life's going to work out well, and you're going to do great things because that is your heart, and your heart will take you intuitively into places, the right places, when your motive and ambition is to take care of others and to provide value to other people. I can tell you this right now, life shrinks and expands in proportion to your courage. And courageous people take risks. And we all know this, right? We all know that even courage is not the absence of fear, it's the master of it, meaning you don't wait for the right feelings to take the right risks. You got to just have to take the right risk. There's got to be some of you watching this video and thinking, man, look, I really want to make this entrepreneurial thing work for me, and I want to be successful. Do you have the entrepreneur gene, right? That's my question to you. So here are 4 ways or 4 ideas or 4 questions you can ask yourself today to know a little bit better about, am I wired to be an entrepreneur, okay? So number 1 is just your discipline with writing out concepts, right? Number 1, do you have a clear business plan? And the business plan is a 1-page, concise business case for why this can work. Without this, first of all, you don't really have a clear direction and you're not really going to go far. But secondly, you're not going to get other people involved who can help. So can you write, and have you written a 1-page, concise business plan? Number 2, do you have a strong work ethic? Okay, do you show initiative? You don't wait to be asked to do things. Can you hustle? Can you grind? You know, a lot of people get faked out thinking that working for themselves is easier. Let me tell you something, as an entrepreneur, it's the opposite, right? You've got to chain yourself to your laptop and other tools and work until not just the work gets done, but the results actually follow. And when no one's telling you to work hard, trust me, it's a little harder than you think, okay? That's number 2. Number 3, can you build a team? Now, people can pull people together for social situations, but can you actually hold people together, and do you know how to pick a team, okay? You can't do it alone. We all have gaps, and we need a team, and that's the only way. If you have a vision for something that's really powerful, you're going to need a group of people to help you pull it off. And 4th and finally, can you handle failure and setback? And I'd ask you this question, tell me a recent comeback from a difficult situation. That's a great question for you to actually answer for yourself, all right? So, look, I'm not going to steal anybody's enthusiasm to try big things. I'm just saying a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but only a few people can pull it off. And look, I'm not throwing shade when I say this. If you go and Google the Small Business Administration's 2025 statistics, what you're going to find out is 4 to 9% of the people that actually attempt to do what we're talking about and become successful, right? So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you got to be comfortable with uncertainty. You got to be comfortable with setbacks. You got to be comfortable with failure. And even more than that, you really got to be resilient, right? You got to be able to stay with things when they don't work because you believe in them longer term. And that's a quality and that's where my training comes in, helping people become resilient to achieve things like this. And I'll leave you with one separate out-of-the-box thought for some of you that are faith-based. The book of Hebrews chapter 11 talks about, Abraham, even though he didn't know where he was going, he got up and went to a foreign land. And I just want to leave you with a thought on faith. Faith, oftentimes, yes, it's definitely trusting completely. If God is intending you to accomplish something, he will equip you to do it. But just remember, faith comes and trust should come. If you're an entrepreneur, if you want to try to do something in business, faith and trust come after you've built the plan and the team. So yes, here's not to confuse you. You've got to trust and be faithful before the plan even starts. But a lot of times people come up with an idea and they sit back and they pray and they think, okay, I just need to trust that all these pieces are going to fall together. It's up to you. It's up to you to put together a plan and assemble a team and share your ideas with other people that have been successful. And then from there, you can adopt that faithful position that, look, if you've done the work, right, if you've come up with the plan, if you've assembled a handful of people that are going to join you, you have some form of backing, then you've got to trust that if this is intended to be, it's going to happen. And it really will. I'm telling you, for all the challenges I've thrown out here, if it's meant to be, it's genuinely going to happen in your life. But again, I want to leave you with this thought. That does not get in the place of or in the way of the need for you to plan and to pull together a team and to share those ideas with people that have been successful so that they can point you in the direction that is a favorable direction. Okay, so if you're a man or a woman of faith, ultimately God will prevail, but you've got to provide, and the book of Proverbs talks about this, right? Plans fail for a lack of counsel, but you've got to have a plan that could be blessed by God. And so today's been a conversation about, do you have these attributes? Do you have the attributes of an entrepreneur? Leap and the net will appear. I'm more inclined to say look before you leap. And what I mean by that is just first do your homework, right? Do the things that I talked about today. Do the self-discovery. Ask yourself the hard questions. Have conversations with people that you trust about the questions that I posed. Then create an idea and then jump and watch the net appear. I think that order of go is a much more sound one than just trusting that things align magically in your life and then you get frustrated because you don't see things magically aligning in life. So there you go. There's your talk today, episode 6 in the books. I'd love to hear your commentary, where you agree, where you align, where you push back, how you see this topic differently, or maybe even there's a story of you being an entrepreneur that you want to share with our community. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon. If today's conversation challenged you, it's a real signal you need to do the work. It's no longer an option for you. So don't push that feeling away. It's reminding you of the cost of playing small. Success is easy when things go well, but resilience, that's cultivated when things go sideways. Make sure you subscribed, and if this episode brought you value, pass it on. It's how we grow the tribe. We'll be back, hopefully next week. Until then, I'll see you next time. Here is your call to rise. Rise up so that others can rise.